Hey guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, back with another design team project for Pear Blossom Press. And we're going to be creating this fun, yes, very orange, very Halloween. We're going to be creating this fun light up card featuring the Trick or Treat House Mouse stamp set from Spellbinders and Pear Blossom Press's own Easy Lights. Love this. So take a look. We've got a jack-o'-lantern that lights up as our little mice are just playing and jumping on Mama's belly. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you how I created this fun card. So for our project today, we're going to be using some standards that I always use for my Pear Blossom Press lights. We're going to be using the world's best foam tape. We're going to be using the Stamp and Die bundle for our push button. That is always fabulous. And we're going to be using the Easy Lights today. And I am using my T-square to help me line everything up perfectly. In addition to that, I'm also using my notched corner frames from Spellbinders. This is one of my standard ones that I use for a lot of shaping of images and things. But we're going to also use this guy. This is brand new from Spellbinders. It is the Trick or Treat stamp set from from the House Mouse collection. I think this is just so adorable. Look at that. Anyway, we're going to be using all of this stuff to create a new card, plus some Simon Hurley inks and my Ohuhu markers. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to show you how to make this card. So I'm going to start off by stamping out this adorable this adorable stamp. This is a new one from Spellbinders. It's called Trick or Treat, and it is part of the House Mouse collection. And the House Mouse stuff is just so friggin' adorable. Anyway, what we've got on the stamp is we have these three little baby mice that are playing in a candy bucket, a candy jack-o'-lantern, and jumping over onto Mama's belly. Yeah, with as much candy as around here, I keep thinking that Mama's probably full, and I'm afraid the thing's gonna throw up on them. Anyway, it's still super cute, and they do have little kind of sketch lines that show the movement, so you can tell that this guy in the front has already jumped off Mama's belly, and this one is jumping down on Mama's belly, and this one is waiting. Anyway, I think this is super adorable. And yeah, so we've got three sentiments also: happy Halloween, trick or treat, and official candy tester. That is perfect. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stamp out our main image here. I'm using my MISTI so I can make sure that I get a really nice, pretty impression. And I have already taken out the mat that I normally keep in here because since this is a cling stamp, it's a rubber stamp, it needs more space. So first what we want to do is we want to put this down into the corner just in case. So if it moves, we can put it back. And I'm going to take one of my magnets and hold that down. Next we'll put that right there in the center. And we're going to get this ready to stamp. I'm also going to use my rabbit hole design anti-static powder tool because I want to do a little bit of embossing. What I really like to do, especially with these lovely stamps, is whenever I'm doing a house mouse, I always do heat embossing, and I think it always turns out so fabulous. But I've changed my mind about doing it in black. I've decided to do it in other colors lately. So how about... Okay, I'm kind of torn. I kind of want to do purple. I kind of want to do blue. I also kind of want to do orange. So I think I'm going to start with the orange. This is Guppy from Simon Hurley. This is some of his new Stellar ink. So I'm going to try that one out and see if it turns out dark enough. Just doing a little tapping down on there, and we're going to go ahead and stamp it down. We're going to see how that looks. If it looks bold enough, I mean, I could always add other color behind it, but if it turns out bold enough, yeah, this is going to be not quite bright enough, but I'm wondering if doing a little red on top might work. So let's grab out some bee sting. And when you layer colors like this, you can create your own. So if you don't have a shade that you like, just layer some colors and that's going to be perfect for you. You can create your own colors just like when you do Color Wheel or paint mixing or any of those. Okay, let's see how this looks. I do kind of like that. I kind of wanted a little more orange, but I think that this is... And I thought for a second that I might have shifted, but I don't think I did. Okay, we're going to do another stamping down real quick and see how that does. And then we can do our heat embossing over the top. Okay. So it does, in my mind, parts of it looks a little bit blurred and parts of it doesn't. But I think what the parts that look a little bit blurred to my eye are actually because the mouse is moving. I think that they are basically intending to have a little bit of it being a little bit blurred. That's just the nature of the stamp. So I'm going to put some I'm going to put some clear embossing powder. This is clear embossing powder from Wow, over the top, and then we're going to hit that with the heat gun until it is all nice and shiny and melted. So I do want my pumpkin to be orange, so I'm going to use a couple of markers to add some color to that. Starting off with this one, which is Y10. These are Ohuhu. Starting off with some Y10 at the bottom of the pumpkin. That's going to be our darkest part. And just doing a little flicking going up. And then do the same kind of thing coming from the top down. And then I'm coming in with Y4, which is kind of a yellowy orange. And that's going to be our lightest color. I'm kind of just blending them together so that they kind of come together. And that's just going to add a little bit of color for our pumpkin. Now, I don't really care if I have a lot of color on this, but I did want to bring out that pumpkin. I wanted that to kind of stand out. Okay, and then there are some parts where it's a little bit, well, it's not quite as blended, I guess, as I would like. So I'm going to use my darker marker facing down and my lighter marker facing up. And I'm going to drain some of the ink from this one, because it got a little bit darker, onto my lighter marker. And then I'm going to use that kind of as the midtone. I'm going to basically darken everything up just a little bit and make everything blend a little bit better. And then I'm coming back in with my darker marker and just darkening up some of those places that I want to be a little bit darker. Okay, so I'm going to say that our little pumpkin is done. So for our little mouse, mices, I'm going to use E090 for the lightest color. That's going to be basically everywhere that the fur's not really showing, like the feet and the tails and their little faces. That's going to, and of course the inside of the ears. So that's going to be in this lighter color. But it does add a little bit of color to their faces. Oh, they are just so adorable. And then I'm coming in with E210 for the darker areas. And that's going to be basically all of the parts that have got fur. And the texture from the stamp makes it so easy, so you don't actually have to do a lot of blending with this, because it basically gives you all of the depth and dimension and shadows and all of that are all built into the stamp. So just adding a layer of color there kind of helps. Now these are kind of reddish mice. I still think that that's cute. So Mama Mouse is all done. Let's get the babies done. And all we're doing is kind of slightly tinting that red as a little bit of a brown. So these are super cute. Anyway, only thing really that's left is going to be the little pieces of candy. And I figured I'm going to go a little bit bright on those since the rest of this is really just kind of neutral colors. We're going to go a little bit brighter. At least for the red. That red, I think I went a little bit too bright, but that's okay. Okay, so now we have our little pieces of candy. So now we need to just get this ready to put a light behind. I cut a frame to go around our images. Instead of cutting them out, I usually cut them out and then put them on a backing. Instead, this time I did a frame, and then I'm going to put that onto our cardstock. And then I can line this up right the way that I want to around our little scene here. We go. And the frame I created using the notched corner frames from Spellbinders. By the way, all of the products I'm using today will be listed down in the description box if you are interested. So I think that turned out good. Now, it's not perfect on the card because this panel was a little bit smaller than A2 size, but that is perfect for my purposes because I like to trim mine down anyway. So I'm going to trim it down. First, I'm going to trim it down to, let's see. Looks like, let me get out my T-square to help me measure. So it looks like this side is right at 2, 4. Okay, my brain is not working. That's because that's not a full inch. Okay, that explains a lot. Okay, so it is right about a 1/2 inch. This side is at about 3/8 from the edge. And this side is about 3/8. So I think I need to make sure that each side is about 3/8 to start, just to make sure everything is centered. Let's go ahead and trim off that little bit of white on the edge. That should leave us with right about 3/8. I'm just going to keep on using my T-square. This is my T-square from Pear Blossom Press to help me measure. And you see it is 3 tick marks, so that is 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so at 3/8 of an inch, let's see. This side is about the same, so I just need to trim off that little bit of white, and then these two sides should be pretty much where I want them. Okay, so that looks good. Now I need to make sure that these two sides are about 3/8, and since they're at a 1/2 inch, I basically just need to take about an 1/8 of an inch off. Let me do this side first because it's got more white. Get rid of that excess white. So yeah, just trim your panel down to the way that you want it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a white space all the way around when I put this down onto my card base, and typically that means this is going to be 4 inches tall and then 5 1/4 wide. So I wasn't 100% sure what kind of light I wanted to add to this, but I think I'm going to fall back to what I thought initially, and that is I'm going to use the Easy Light. This Easy Light comes with 3 little bulbs attached to some wires that are attached to a little circuit board that's going to act as our battery pack and trigger. So this is what it looks like with a 5th one. I've already popped it off. They come apart really easy. It's basically got a perforation right in between each. So here is our final mechanism, okay? And the way the battery comes in, the batteries do come with this, and they are in a separate little container thing there. The way you want to install this is you want this flat part with all the writing to be on top. It also says plus. And then on your battery pack, it also says plus. Now you can only put it in one way. That's going to be the way that has this little curved part. The other has got a couple of little pieces of metal that are going to block it, so it will not go in that side. Even if you try, it won't let you go. Okay? Won't let you go in there. So you're going to want to put it in on this side. You just slide that in. And what I always do, I always test. I test a lot. So we're going to go ahead and just test it real quick. And those lights do come on, so that's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I want my lights to be I want them to be in the jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to take out some Scotch tape, and we're going to tape them onto the back of our panel. I have already done a little trial run, and they weren't positioned right, which is totally fine. But it gives me basically an idea. So I just marked it with my finger as to where I thought it was going to go, and marked it with a pencil. And then all I need to do is just tape this onto the back approximately where that is. I am going to try to be a little bit more precise this time, though. Let's hold it in place and turn on the light, and that is kind of where I want it. There we go. That's right where I want it. So I'm going to hold that down, and I'm going to tape that one down. And then I'm going to test it again and make sure that it is in the spot that I want it. It's a little bit low, so I'm going to move it again. This is basically a little bit of trial and error, but it doesn't damage anything on your card, so you are perfectly fine to do this. Okay, let's see if that one's perfect. And that one's a little bit off too. So I'm going to go ahead and just basically do some repositioning of all my little guys. That's where I want it, right in the center of that triangle for the eye. There we go. I think that one's good. And we're going to do the same thing with the other two. Okay, I've got them all in place. I know it looks a little weird with the mouth, but I think that's still fine. So this is where I'm going to have my little lights, okay? So next we need to add some foam to the back of this and install our little button so that we know where it's going to go. I think I want to have, I kind of want the button to be right in the middle of Mama's belly. I think that would be funny. But it's going to be hard to see the rest of the image while you're pressing the button, so maybe not. Let's just be safe, and we'll put it up here in the corner. So I'm just going to draw a line to show where I want it. It's going to go right about here. And then I can start installing all of my foam. Now the foam I'm going to be using is fabulous. This is some foam tape from Pear Blossom Press. It's the world's best foam tape. I have a little bit left there. I have another roll here. This is what it looks like when you get it in the packaging. It is fabulous. And I'm not saying that just because it's Pear Blossom Press, although I do love all things Pear Blossom Press. This stuff is fabulous because of what it can do. First off, the release paper comes off super, super easy. Yeah, super easy. It is the perfect thickness. It is already double thick. You don't need to double up on your foam when you're putting it in for a light up card. And you do need that extra space to make room for the battery. Although Amanda did make the battery pack as thin as possible for our cards, okay? But this is double thick, so it's perfect size for that. But the best part is this stuff is repositionable. I think that is the absolute best thing, and probably the thing that people love the absolute most about it, is that if you screw up, because we're crafters, we sometimes make mistakes. If you mess up, you can move it. For instance, I just put a piece down. Let's go ahead and cut that. And let's say that that's not where I wanted the tape. I'm going to just peel it right back up, and it doesn't ruin my card. Okay, let's go ahead and just add all the pieces so that we can have our battery pack where we want it, and then we can install that onto our card. Actually, I just had a thought. I think what I'm going to do first, I want to make a door. There is a die to make a door in the die set for the card. There is a die to make a door in the die set that you can get with. There is a die that you can make a door with in the Stamp and Die bundle from Pear Blossom Press, but I kind of want to do one just separate. I could still keep it up here at the top. I still think that's what I want to do. So let's kind of measure. I'm going to take my battery pack. This is where I'm going to be placing it when we're done. It's going to be right about there. And the reason I'm thinking about making a door is I want to make it so that if you needed to, you could change out the batteries. I think it might be better if I do it this way. Just thinking accessibility, but not... With the wires, you can basically place it anywhere you want. I want it to be accessible, but I don't want it to really... I don't want you to have a chance of messing up anything with the wires with them sticking out. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it right about there. And that's going to be where my door is going to go. And this is going to be real quick and easy. Like I said, you can use the die. But instead, I'm going to do this. And then we can just fold it back. And now we have a door for our battery pack to be able to change that battery out. Okay, that I think is going to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down onto my card panel using some double-sided adhesive that I've got in my stash. And we need the button to be facing forward. So that means we need to have the adhesive be on the metal part. I'm going to just burnish that down so that I can remove the release paper more easily. Okay, and then we're just going to place that right down. Okay, and now the wires are kind of sticking up. That is fine. What we're going to do is we're going to take some Scotch tape again. We're just going to kind of twist them around so that they will lay flat, and we're just going to tape them down. And then we're going to be covering a lot of this up with our foam tape, so we're not going to really have to worry too much about that. So I do want to make sure that I have the edges because I want the card to lay flat. I'm going to do the edges first. And then what I'm going to recommend is that you again test it. Now, part of the reason for this part of the test is so that you can decide, do you need to put foam in any specific spots so that you block the light where you want to block it or whatever. Had to find the button. The button is right there. So from what I can tell on the card, there is a little bit of a halo showing about here. So you could probably do that. But I'm thinking this one really doesn't matter too much. So I am going to add a couple more pieces of foam to go on the inside just so that we don't have any saggy middles. And then another test, make sure all of the foam is in the right spot. And I think that's going to work fine. Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to remove all of my release paper. And we can go ahead and position. Ooh, okay, that doesn't have any adhesive. That's fine. Okay, now we can go ahead and do that. I did just notice something though. This piece up at the top is going to overlap. Oh, I also I put this in the wrong direction. That is one of the things. So see how I did this to begin with? I wanted it to go sideways. That's how I made my door. Now I can either change this or I can get another card base. I'm going to go ahead and get another card base and we're going to do that part again. Okay, it looks like that is close. A little bit crooked. Let me straighten that up a little bit more. Maybe going from the bottom will be an easier way to go. Yeah, okay. So I do want to try to make this as close as I can to where I want it without having to remove it again. So let's take a look and see how it does. So if I press the button, press it right there on the edge, it does light up. I open it up and there you have that. You're able to get to the battery pack to be able to change out the battery if need be. I think that's going to be perfect. Now all I need is a sentiment and a button. That looks good. Now all we need is our little button. Now to do that, I've got something special. This is part of the stamp and die bundle from Pear Blossom Press. There's a couple of different versions of it. There was one that was out for a while and then they came out, I think it was last year, with the the candlelight. So they redid it. So the stamps now have got all of these fun sentiments. We've got push, pull, blow, press, press here, scratch off, and push. Plus this fun one to put on the back of your card that says handmade for you. And we've got a couple little teardrops or candle flames and a couple of stars to go with it. Now the one that I like the most is this one that is pink because I use it so much, and that says press here. So that's what I'm going to use. Now we could have done that on the card itself before putting everything together. I tend to not know exactly where I'm going to put things until I get to that point. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make myself a little push here button. Since we're using orange, let's see if I have any orange scraps, because that would be perfect for this. So going into my little scrap bin, and I do have some of that same color of orange. Perfect. So now I'm just going to stamp that little piece onto our card there. I'm not going to worry about embossing this piece because, you know, it is just a small little piece we're going to be putting on there. I'm going to go ahead and use that same red ink, and we're going to see how it does. What this should do is should make it so it's visible, but it's still going to be a little unobtrusive, I guess. It's not going to be as obvious. Just going to stamp that, and we've got plenty of cardstock left if we want. I think I pressed a little bit too hard, so I'm going to do another stamping. If you don't like it the first time, you can always do a second. Okay, that's a little bit lighter, and that looks perfect. You've also got in that Stampin' Die set, there is a circle die, which is perfect for it. I think I will go ahead and die cut that out real quick. And this die is actually perfect size for that little message. Okay, so it looks like the button is right about there. So I'm just going to put a little pencil mark there so I know what I'm doing. And then we're going to go ahead and glue this down. And you can see the writing on there, but like I said, it's nice and light, so you're not really going to notice it as much. And it's going to go great with this pretty much tone on tone that I've done for this card. I don't do that a lot. I do love my contrast, but this I think turned out super cute. So I'm going to put that press here button right there so they know where to press. And that's going to finish up the card. I think this turned out just so super fun with our little light up jack-o'-lantern. Okay, you guys have a wonderful day. Be sure to check out this video over here if you'd like to see another one where we're making another light up card using Pear Blossom Press fabulous products. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.